This week's Carriage Conversation is brought to you by no other than Coughlin Insurance, relationship driven since 1947. Hello everybody, I'm back. It's Christian Perry, your real estate choreographer, with another edition of Carriage Conversations. A little twist today, I'm taking you on another carriage with an interesting interview from a good man and the founder of the Academy of Aviation in Westchester, Chris Richards. Quite the story. Let's go. Hey everybody, it's Christian Perry, your real estate choreographer. I'm here with a buddy, Chris Richards, founder of Academy of Aviation, Sky, heavy metal, the list goes on and on and on, but we'll talk about what's relevant to you, the folks moving into Greenwich and the folks that are in Greenwich. So how did this all start? Was this your idea to open up a flight school?
It just kind of happened. Originally, the aviation side of it happened because I was in the music industry.
Really? We'll have to talk about that later.
And when you're in the music industry, you have to go and fly around the world.
That's true.
And I was very excited. I grew up very, very broke, poor, and stuff. And so I didn't really get to travel in airplanes as a kid.
Yeah.
So, and my mom always had a fear of flying. So what happened was I got signed to I had a recording contract. And,
all right.
Went and recorded an album, and next thing you know, you got to go and support that album. Back in the 90s, music was very different than it is today, where you just kind of do YouTube. And,
yeah, there's no iTunes back in the 90s.
No, nothing like that. So you went out and you went on the road.
It was hit, play, and record and play at the same time. Remember those days?
So the first time I had to go out and support it, we were flying from JFK to Hamburg, Germany, to go meet up with our tour bus over there.
Okay.
And I was so excited to fly. I believe it was in a DC-10 Delta airplane. And we're taxiing and all that kind of good stuff, and we're bouncing around. I'm totally psyched. And there's something, an airplane rotates when it takes off. That means you're rotating the angle of the airplane, and I'm not going to get into the details of that. But once we rotated, I felt like the airplane was just going to keep going backwards and flip over. We were all going to die. And I hated the feeling from start to the end of the flight. So fast forward a couple of years, I'm the type of guy that doesn't really like to have any fear in his life. And it kind of bothered me. I would not sleep for days before I had to go on tour or take a flight somewhere. So one day I ended up passing by an airport down Long Island called Republic Airport, and they had what they called at the time intro flights or introductory flights.
Sure.
And I went up for one. And back then I had piercings and covered in tattoos. I had probably 10 piercings in my face, and I didn't really fit the mold, but I was pretty well off financially.
Sure.
And I went for a test flight, or an intro flight. That changed everything.
Did it?
It really changed everything. It was like the moment I felt like, and I use this analogy all the time, I felt like I was married, but then all of a sudden I found the true love of my life. And so I told the guys in the music business that I just wanted to kind of take some time off, which I did do, and did some great things outside of that, but never really followed through because I was still doing the training. I went for my private pilot certification, and that's all that I planned on doing. I didn't plan on doing anything that I've done.
Of course.
And then all of a sudden, I felt like I wanted more. I'm just at the baby level stage.
So when did the urge to want to teach other people?
That didn't happen for a while. So again, everything I've ever done, I've never planned on doing any of it. So whether it was kids, marriage, any of it, it just kind of happens automatically. And so then all of a sudden I felt like I needed to kind of grow more. So I signed up for an instrument rating course.
Oh, great.
And I was learning the...
By the way, instrument rating means you want the capability to fly into clouds.
In the clouds without
weather,
any reference to the outside world. You're basically focusing exclusively on your instruments in the cockpit. And there's some challenges with that. So it's a challenging rating. They're not pilot's license, they're called pilot certificates. And then you have ratings like what kind of airplane you're flying and all this other kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into it.
Sure.
But, so I went for my instrument rating, and I was learning to fly out at West Hampton Beach on Long Island because there was a bunch of buttheads at the airport at Republic at the time. They were very cocky, and I wanted to be with people that were just cool.
Approachable.
Yeah. And I went and learned at a Greek flight school called Daedalus, and they had the oldest airplanes in the world. I don't even think they had seat belts in them, but they were really good people. A lot of the kids there were airline captains' sons from Olympic Airlines,
Oh, okay.
and that's where they would go to train because it's cheaper to train in the United States than abroad.
Yes.
So I go ahead, I do that, and their instrument course was embedded with their commercial course, and they were like, "Why don't you just kind of do it?" And I was like, "You know what? Let's do it." You know, I just signed on and I just did whatever, and then it just kind of started snowballing from there. I ended up getting my commercial and all that kind of stuff, and multi-engine and flight instructor certificates and everything. And I ended up meeting my wife at the airport, at Republic Airport, while I was renting an airplane. I saw this girl walking across the tarmac there.
That's how it starts.
And next thing you know, fast forward, we have 2 kids, you know, married for almost 18 years, and we have our ups and downs, no pun intended, with aviation.
Part of life.
She's a designated pilot examiner.
And where was the first location you opened up?
Farmingdale Republic Airport. Yeah. So I started out in a little tiny, like 600 square foot hangar like this, you know, just a little thing, no bathroom, nothing. And all of a sudden, the business started snowballing because I would meet people, and I believe in passion. You know, you have to be passionate in life about what you do. And I think that's the success. Like, I'll meet a lot of kids that come up to me and say, "Mr. Richards," that's a weird thing to hear, but they'll say, "Mr. Richards, you know, what's your exit strategy? What are you doing? How do you do this and that?" I said, "Just find what you're passionate about, and
Absolutely.
and sell your love and your passion." And that's something I learned from like Wayne Dyer years ago.
Great tip. You don't have to sell if you really love
Right,
it.
and it just it just glows out of you. You know, it just, people can see it, and I can see it when people go to take an intro flight and they come back. I can tell who bit the bullet. Aviation, it really calls you, and once you try it, it changes everything. You're not the same person. It's like this whole other world, and you got to try it to see if it fits you.
Well, let's talk about that. So why I want to do this interview is, first of all, to learn your story and learn about you, which is very, very fascinating, but also to the people that don't know about aviation, right? How attainable it is. So that's what you offer the folks that are here in local Greenwich and also the surrounding areas, is an attainable and approachable school, not only financially, because that's another thing that's daunting to many, many people. This thing has cost a fortune to do, when really it doesn't. But also, well, let's just start here. What do they have to do when they call? All they have to do is call Academy of Aviation, and they do a test flight with
They
one of
would
your
go for
instructors?
doing an introductory flight. You know, some people don't even do that. They just sign up even before doing that because they know it's something they want to do.
Sure.
One of the most important things that I try to get out of the way first, and I'm pretty upfront. I don't mind asking very private, personal questions. I'll see what kind of financials they have and stuff. And people get a little closed up when you start asking about money and stuff. And I don't do that. I just try to see what's going to fit them best. You know, if you have somebody who's making $100,000 or less a year, they're kind of, not they're going to be treated differently, but there's a lot of other options for them versus somebody who's making multi-millions a year.
Correct.
And there's a lot of really great tax incentives in aviation. We have something called accelerated depreciation. So it really, I try to feel out the student / client and see where they're looking to go. What's their mission? What are they is this a hobby thing, or is this something that they're going to be using for practical purposes to transport themselves and their family and so on around the world?
So there are many stay-at-home wives, I should say also stay-at-home husbands, right? 2021. They have time on their hands from when their kids get dropped off to school to when their kids need to be picked up. Why not pick up aviation? And to me, it's ultimate freedom. I have my pilot's license also, and I've rented many of your planes, beautiful planes. And I think that's what everyone needs to know, is like, they're going to come here, they're going to do ground school and actual flying school, right?
Right.
So what can you talk about that a little bit, what ground school is?
Well, a lot of people, especially younger guys and girls, they tend to think it's more about just flying the airplane. And that's, especially during the private, that's probably 50% of the challenge. Aviation is really more of a mental thing. First you get down to psychomotor skills, and then as you progress, it's all about making what they call ADM, aeronautical decision making, and making sure that you're making the right decision for the person that you are. So what my minimums and what your minimums are probably very different, right? So we have something called ADM, aeronautical decision making, and that's what aviation is really, I think, built around, especially in this genre, like in the flying privately and yourself, and you got to know your limitations. What's right for you is not right for another person.
For example, like landing in 20 knots of wind is
Right.
comfortable for one pilot,
Right.
might not be comfortable for another pilot. Their minimum should be 15 mile,
Right.
15 knot.
Yeah, and it's really part of our job as an educational facility to, wake some people up and make sure that they're making the right decision. Because we'll have a lot of people that are very successful, especially up here at the Westchester location.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So you are part founder of Sky.
Yes.
Sky is a charter company. What does that mean? What people that don't know what aviation is, and they think they can only fly commercial, or that chartering is just out of this world as far as the budget.
Right.
Is it?
So, for some, it is, but for others, it's not. And charter is freedom. It gives you the ability to charter a plane when you want it, how you want it, the food that you want, all that stuff that you need. You can go from Westchester County Airport and fly to, let's say, Monterey, right?
Well, how about Florida?
Exactly. So you don't deal with the same level of security that you would at, let's say, JFK or LaGuardia. It's a much smoother process. There's more options, and that's what you're really paying for. You're paying for the options, and you're flying directly to where you really want to be.
Now, we're sitting in a beautiful TBM.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about this magnificent piece of machinery?
This is one of, if not the fastest single-engine turboprop that's currently made. I think there might be some other competitors coming out. This airplane will cruise at 330 knots, and if you don't know what knots is, take miles per hour and add 15% to that.
100 miles an hour is 115 knots.
Yes. You can cruise this airplane at 31,000 feet, which will get you above most weather.
And much quicker. At a
Yes,
higher
yes,
elevation.
correct.
Well, fantastic. All right, so here we are inside the hangar of heavy metal, right?
Heavy metal area.
So this is where all the maintenance occurs with these planes, which is very, very important for those newcomers.
When I first started taking flying lessons, they would call big airplanes heavy metal because they were made of big heavy metal. And that just like clicked in my head, and I was like, wait a minute, let me go and look it up. And it's like nobody else had that, that name and everything. If you look at the logo, it's a wrench and a wing, and it looks very heavy metal like it, from the music industry, from my background.
Classic.
A 2020 Cessna 172 Skyhawk G1000, which is the avionics package. Most of all modern aircraft that are being built, if not all, are all using glass panel avionics and the flight displays.
Glass panel means an actual, iPad, let's say, for
Right,
folks
like
that
an
don't know what it
iPad
is.
screen, where back in the day you had mechanical pieces of equipment. We call them six packs. You would have an attitude indicator, a heading indicator, a vertical speed indicator, an altimeter, and all that kind of stuff.
Which is how I learned to fly, but the glass panel makes it much better.
It's all in there, and you have onboard traffic, onboard terrain. You have all these safety features.
It talks to you.
Yeah.
It really does. You're too low. You're too
Right.
low.
Yes.
So, one thing that, talking about how to get involved, there's prices and options.
So many different ways.
Prices is something that is daunting to a lot of people. They think it's a billionaire sport.
Right.
It's really not.
No.
And there's actually financing for this.
Correct.
You've partnered up with who?
Sally Mae is one of our career financing companies. There's another company out there called Pilot Finance that just works with pilots that just want to get, let's say, a private pilot certificate and an instrument rating. It's not the cheapest thing to do, but it's the most rewarding in my opinion.
But it's a way to finance the payment.
Correct.
Somebody that doesn't have it all in one lump sum.
Break it down.
That's great. So they have that here at Academy of Aviation. Come say hello. Come say hi to the gang. He's got a great team. When you guys come here, they greet you at the door. It's a fantastic place. It's right here in Westchester County. Borders Greenwich, Connecticut. Appreciate it, man.
Awesome, dude.
Good to see you.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you soon.
look forward
We'll be
to it.
taking your planes out. Bye, everybody. Christian Perry, your real estate choreographer, helping you make the best moves.